Welcome to episode 60 of Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. This coming weekend is Halloween. It makes me really sad that for the first time ever, I cannot participate. My house will be dark. Halloween is always so much fun. I usually get enough little kids to use up multiple Costco-sized bags of candy. I love to see the costumes and interact with the children. God, they're so cute. I can remember taking my own kids trick-or-treating in this very neighborhood. So many fun memories of making costumes and walking with friends. I can even remember back when I was in elementary school when I would run to my school bus at the end of the school day like my hair was on fire, excited to get home and get the whole thing started. The thrill of it all is burned into my memory. But this year, my house will be dark. It will be a tough one for parents. Either they send their kids out to interact with people whose health status they do not know, to bring home candy from houses that may or may not be infected, or they keep them at home. If my kids were still little, I think I would do what we did for Easter when it was way too cold and snowy here to go outside. We would celebrate Easter egg hunts in the house. Hiding Halloween candy for kids to find in a safe environment could still be lots of fun. Parents have a drive to protect their children from what is happening in the world. But I think that may be coming back to bite us. Maybe the worst thing we can do is to pretend that we are not in the predicament that we most certainly are in. Maybe pretending everything is normal is just a way of not learning the lessons that we are facing. Maybe it would be good for the upcoming generation to understand that the absence of action in the face of a pandemic has very real consequences in their lives. I can't imagine that disconnecting children from what is going on will result in a more proactive citizenry in the future. Near where I live, there were parents who felt so bad for their teens that they wouldn't have their traditional homecoming dance that they held their own away from school. It turned into a super spreader COVID fest. I'd hate to have teens in my home when this pandemic is going on because they're so driven to be with their friends. They're hard to contain, but to put their need for normalcy above the need for their health and the health of the community is to raise entitled, out-of-touch citizens. Even teens have to do their part in this pandemic, and they need to understand the gravity of the choice in leaders that they will be making in the near future. When I was raising my children, I read an interview with the pediatrician T. Barry Brazelton, who said that in looking back at all the children he had treated over the years, he observed that the children who had been through tough life events were the children who turned into the best adults. At the time, I wondered what to do with that information since my children had a pretty easy life. Then their father died. I saw the concept in action. They endured the difficulty of growing up without their dad and turned into magnificent men. Tough life events forge character, not denying tough events, but embracing all that comes with them. If nothing else, may this terrible time in our history, at the bare minimum, forge character for those who endure. We are in a mess. COVID cases are surging all over the place. Those who currently run our government have absolutely no plan to control it or to help those who have been affected by it. I can deal with anything except a lack of a plan. That just feels like chaos to me. It is anxiety producing to not have proper testing available so that I know what is and is not safe. It is anxiety producing to not know anyone else's health status. It is anxiety producing to see that we are working against one another. It is insane that the rugged individualism expressed through not wearing masks has resulted in North Dakota today having the highest mortality rate per capita in the world. The leader of our country said that if a plane went down and 500 people were dead, the media wouldn't talk about it because they are so focused on COVID. The reality of our situation is that we have the equivalent of 2 planes of 500 people dying every day, which certainly deserves our focus. Life is not normal right now. We do ourselves no service by pretending that it is. Next Tuesday is the election. It may seem like politics is a separate issue from our spiritual journey, but nothing could be further from the truth. Those who are elected to office have power over our lives. They have the ability to control our lives in ways we are witnessing right now. I remember my mother, who lived into her 90s, telling me that in all her years she had lived through many different administrations and nothing had changed all that much depending on who was elected. She lived through administrations she didn't agree with, but there was always hope that the next administration more closely aligned with her thinking. We are no longer in that world. We are standing at a precipice where we may no longer have the ability to choose our leaders. This is a very real threat. I am so inspired by all the people who are standing in line for an entire day to cast their votes. It also enrages me. There is a very real threat to our ability to choose leaders who reflect our thinking. These lines are not accidental. They are designed to disenfranchise those who disagree with the direction the current leaders are taking. Right now, we are in a situation where those at the top do not reflect the will of the people. A president who lost the popular vote has installed 3 Supreme Court justices who do not reflect the views of the collective culture. It is now a 5-3 partisan court who reflect the minority. The minority party has now nominated 15 of the last 19 Supreme Court justices, despite losing the popular vote in 6 of the last 7 elections. The popular vote is a reflection of where we are in the collective culture. If those who reflect views that are not held by the majority have the power to stop all growth, we all suffer. We are here to learn and grow. Each individual is tasked with moving towards empathy, integrity, honesty, humility, and full acceptance of others. When the smaller percentage of people are resistant to that growth, and those people have power over us all, our ability to move forward is thwarted. It surprises me how many people would be perfectly fine with living in an autocracy. An autocracy is a country that is governed by one person with absolute power. That person has no accountability, no checks and balances, and is not subject to the will of the people. I thought the people in this country were bigger fans of democracy than it turns out they are. And even more shocking is that they think the guy who was leading us now is the one we want to turn our lives over to. We need leadership, as is evidenced by the pandemic, economic collapse, and social unrest we are steeped in right now. But we need that leadership to reflect the will of the people, and we need that leadership to be accountable, and we need it to have opposition. Opposition is not only a powerful force in our personal lives, it is a necessity in our public lives. We rely on each other to challenge our thoughts and actions so that they may reveal what we are missing. We need opposition to facilitate course correction and refined solutions to the problems we face. Without opposition, we tend to stagnate in our growth. We also need a free press to serve as our eyes and ears in the spaces we cannot inhabit ourselves. We need to know what is going on so that we may make the choices that will move us forward. We need them to play the role they do in the checks and balances in our society. There is no free press in an autocracy. Those who are driven to tell us what is actually happening tend to fall out of windows to their death. Democracy is difficult in the very same way that all our personal relationships are difficult. The same skills we must master on a personal level to get along with the people in our lives are the same skills that we need to employ as a culture, as a country. Democracy can be exhausting, but we are here to do hard things. We are here to struggle and grow and change. Rolling over and letting one person run the show is not an option. We have talked a lot about how the people in this school we are attending are at different grade levels of spiritual awareness. This is how the system works. Each student will enter the school at the lowest level of spiritual awareness and move through the choices they make up to the highest levels of spiritual awareness. It may take one lifetime or many, but each soul will go through that process. That is how the system is designed. We know that people can only take in the information that is at or near their current level of awareness. We also know that every profession and every organization contains people from all the different levels of awareness. So it is with political parties. Herein lies the problem with the adage, when they go low, we go high. Going high is a demonstration of embracing the virtues of honesty, integrity, empathy, and humility, but those virtues are lost on those who inhabit the lower levels of awareness. Those are needless impediments to getting what you want to those at the lower levels. Those virtues are for losers and suckers. Turns out that clinging to the concept of civility has led to the power grab by those in the minority. This has left us in a state of imbalance. When we go high, we are only preaching to the choir. We need to go high, middle, and low. We need to speak to those in all the grades. The reality is that you cannot convince a low-level person to side with you if you are telling them that they need to feel nothing but love and compassion for themselves and others. They will not get that. That is not a priority or objective that resonates for them. People at the lower levels love a sick burn. They are more apt to connect to wild accusations that are not based in truth. They love concepts like people being cannibalistic pedophiles. The wilder and more cruel the accusation, the better. We need voices and strategists in the majority party, the majority as evidenced by the popular vote, to understand that they need the buy-in of those at the lowest levels to have and maintain a voice in what happens next. This is no easy task. They seem to live in an alternate universe. When we move to higher grade levels of spiritual awareness, we tend to forget how we thought and acted when we were at lower levels. We let go of the manipulations and petty thoughts that we once embraced. But in a world where there are still many people at lower levels, we need to employ those who can speak their language. We need to employ those who still think like they do so that they may be able to anticipate exactly how low they are willing to go. We cannot afford to fight fire with lofty concepts that make us feel good about ourselves. We need to be willing to fight fire with fire, or this entire school will be run by the spiritual kindergartners. We need to employ those who are still working through the struggle that those who are at the lowest levels experience. They need our help. Right now, they are backing low-level candidates who are willing to decimate their lives with disease and financial ruin. They don't see that. Their perception is still very cloudy. Those at the lowest levels who are currently in power are only interested in more power. It is very easy for them to manipulate other low-level people to achieve that end. But they don't use that power to help other low-level people. At the lower levels, it is every man for himself. They are not there to help. They are there to feed into the fears and hatred that are characteristic of those at the lowest levels. They are there to tell them that they are right in their thinking and do not need to grow an inch. Those at the lower levels attended a campaign rally here in Nebraska this week. They fed the ego of their leader, who then flew away, leaving them outside in freezing temperatures to fend for themselves. Turns out they were able to bus people into the rally, but didn't have a solid plan to get them back out. If that doesn't sum up this administration, I don't know what does. The sad thing about still being at the lower levels of spiritual awareness is that you don't think you deserve better. Everyone deserves better than that. When you reach higher levels of awareness, you want more for yourself, and you want more for others. Those two things are inextricably linked. When you reach higher levels, you begin to understand that we are all connected, that the success for one can be the success for all. To identify as progressive is to state that you are ready to grow. You are ready to take on the huge issues, and you are ready to look at the past, no matter how difficult that's going to be. It's a way of saying that you recognize that you are strong enough to be uncomfortable because you know that on the other side of that discomfort, you will be a better person. We all have issues that we need to work on personally, and the growth we are capable of achieving will raise the level of the collective culture. What we need is to have intelligent and principled leaders who understand the growth we have already achieved and offer the inspiration to reach even higher. These are frightfully serious times we are going through, and we need serious people with plans to lead us out. We can have that. Let's do our part to bring this nightmare to an end. Thanks for listening to Rebirth Revolution. I appreciate your time and attention. It's great to know that we share concerns and can struggle together. Hopefully next week will bring us the shift we need to begin the phase of renewal. Hopefully we will be able to take what we have learned and use it to fix what is broken. Until next week, make voting your number one priority. Get your vote into the hands of your voting officials. Do not rely on the post office to get your vote there in time. And wear your mask. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Stay strong and safe, and let's work to save this country.